Hello, everybody. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and Dominions with Melter to that 6+++ show. I'm your host, Tom. I'm reporting in from my actual dad's actual study because I'm back here after going to a music festival last week. So we're improvising. We're on the fly. And I am back once again with the lovely 6++ team to talk all things 40k. We're going to be talking secret missions tonight. How do you score them? How do you play them? What ways can you maximize them? And how can you stop people getting you with them as well? We've got a lot of experience in this now, and I think it's an interesting time to start appraising them. We actually have enough data and games played to start figuring them out. So before we do that, I'm going to introduce our cast of players. We're going to talk through a little bit of news. And then at the end, we'll rattle through some podcast questions. So do get those in the chat if you are so minded. So I'm going to introduce our cast of players. My dear leader, Chris, is not here. He's on holiday, as well he should be. Which means I'm going to start with my sensei, the lovely Scrivo. Scrivo, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I haven't quite recovered from WTC. That's
not
going to
yet.
take me a few weeks. But I'm already back on the hype train. I'm already doing the prep for next year because apparently it never stops.
It literally doesn't now.
No.
So, I mean, what does that look like for Wales?
I've changed some numbers on some forms, just kind of building on last year, which is exciting because last year was a real big restructuring for us where we set up all the kind of the infrastructure. So it's just working on that, building it, and trying to get in some fresh blood if required.
Yeah.
Which is exciting, right? Like rather than just chasing, going, where's our 7th and 8th player? We need them desperately. Being able to actually pick and choose is quite nice. So not in the high echelons of tier 1 and tier 2 teams, but we'll get there. Maybe next year.
No. And it's quite exciting. I guess next year we'll have almost all of the game out, right? That's quite a fun time for a WTC where you'll literally have the vast majority of books in play. All the players you have who are good at particular armies will have toys to play with. So I think that's a really exciting time.
And a new mission pack just beforehand again, which is a very good way of checking if people are actually very good at the game, I suppose.
Yeah, that's not going away. There will always now be balance and new rules before it, as far as we can see.
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
It's great.
Yeah, similar conversations going on in the England camp as well. And it is, it's interesting. I think we saw how competitive WTC is, so all the teams know they've got to set really high levels if they want to compete with it.
Yes.
How do you match those French? How do you do it?
More baguettes.
A chef, an on-site
we need
chef.
A chef, yeah.
Yeah, we need a chef.
Hydration agents, chef,
beautiful
foot rubs, and a real dragon. That's all I'm requesting this year.
Yeah, I was my own hydration agent this weekend. I was so good. I'm an old man now, so first of all, it's so important to drink water. I was like, every single time you see a water station, you finish your water bottle, you fill it up again. And actually, I've got away with it. I feel pretty good. I'm a little bit sun-kissed, but otherwise, I've done pretty well. I'm also joined tonight by the true Archon, the one, the only Rob. How are you doing, Rob?
I am great. Been playing some games.
Excellent.
Not with Drukari. Been playing 2 games against Drukari.
Yeah.
But having a bit of a blast with my Ping, Vanguard, Dark Angels with Terminators and a Land Raider. It's so much fun.
Absolutely bonkers list. It's very good. It's got all sorts of random stuff.
It's not good. It's not good.
Depends. Different definitions of good.
But
I look at it and I go, I like that. That looks great.
But one clarification, Rob. You said before the show that you got called out on a rule for your faction. You know, the faction that you made.
Yeah. So I've been playing my blast pistols as AP4 like the witches for my entire army, and they're AP3. So
are they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh!
I should probably report myself. The internet. I should probably put an apology out.
That doesn't seem fair at all. They've always been AP4. It's the Dark Light. Oh well. What are we going to do? I might just carry on playing it that way. I think that seems fine.
Things it is, it's all right.
Yeah. So shout out to everyone who's in our King of the Ping TTS League. That's obviously heading towards a conclusion now. I've got a couple of games to play with my Night Lords in my pod. And I haven't checked through to see quite how the latest scores are going on, but next week we'll check in because we'll be hitting the actual end game of the pod stage. All I know is a lot of people having fun, and actually Discord has also become a TTS game job now, thanks to basically what Davey's done. Right? There's tons of games getting played in there. I had a few games against people that we've met through King of the Ping, and I've been testing out veterans of the Long War CSF. Jung in the chat will know that it's indeed his son Jake who put onto that, was talking about it. And I was like, you know what, Jake, that does sound good. That sounds great. It's very, very fun. It's not subtle, and it works great. So shout out to everyone I've been playing with that last week. It was really, really fun. Okay, right. Well, we're going to shout out people in the chat, and we will do a few news beats and generally talk about what's going on with 6++ moving forward. And then we'll get into our secret missions chat. So who we got? We've got Sean Catewell in. Hello, Sean. Deck is in. Afternoon, everyone. Looking forward to this topic. I'm looking forward to this topic. I actually think secret missions are very cool. I've really enjoyed the last few games where I've been playing into armies who are big on them. It's made the games themselves incredibly spicy. Gordon Chung is in, and Adam is in now. Adam has been on a great run with his Votan, so I want to shout him out. We've been obviously doing some mentoring and coaching, and the Votan are doing well. And he's really, really punching off his weight. His win rate's up. He's giving some very top players some good games. So proud of you, Adam. Well done. Keep on schlepping, and hopefully Votan book on the horizon. That's what I'd like. That's my next desire is a Votan Codex announcement. That would be awesome.
What for Christmas? You want a Christmas present?
Yeah, some Christmas dwarves. I think that'd be really nice. So as far as news goes, the biggest news is that 6++ Nemesis Jack Tight won a Super Major. So that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so good. Just so good. Such a talented player. It was Leeds, wasn't it? I think Leeds Super Major. Yeah. So, and he got to play Nathan Roberts of England fame in the final. So, a really, really good run with his sisters. And I'm just relieved he didn't do it with Drakari, because then we'd be in trouble for our space points. But yeah, really well done, Jack. Very proud of you. And then as far as other things go, I mean, it's new systems getting announced and teased, isn't it, John, really?
Yeah, so there was the new Kill Team season/edition.
That's really exciting.
Kill Team Hivestorm.
Yes.
Looks pretty cool. I think the bit that got me really excited was the Vespids.
I mean, those models are incredible, right? What a level up. It's like they knew. They're like, last time we did not get this right. Let's absolutely make sure we go to town on these.
In their defense, the last models were in metal originally. So that's to age. That shows their age.
Yeah, it's true. I remember when they came out.
The original Tau sculpts from, was it 4th edition they came in?
It's the 4th edition, so it's the second wave of Tau. So it's not even the first wave of their stuff. So it's like still pretty damn old. I think it was 2004.
They look,
so it's 20 years old.
They genuinely look intimidating now. Like, they look quite scary and tough.
Yes. And they've got a lot of tricks, apparently, for Kill Team.
Mm-hmm.
Which is looking quite exciting. So,
are you apprehensive about flying things in Kill Team?
In the previous edition, there was a bit of a challenge with it. So things like the Necron Chronomancer could just go yeet and just murder things. Harlequins had a real problem with it. But because it's timed with them resetting and kind of adjusting the rules, because this isn't a full edition reset where they go, let's spin it all and start again. This is just, let's tone stuff back. Let's clarify things. Like they've said, things like the visibility rules are changed. So I imagine things like flying, if they've designed it around these two teams, which generally they quite often test initially in batches, you'd think they'll have covered flying and make it not quite so kind of obnoxious. Because technically the Scions are not flying either. They are actually the drop troops. So they should be able to just kind of springboard, but they won't be flying indefinitely. So
no, exactly. But gives you some hope for swooping hawks, perhaps, down the line.
That's a rumor. That's been a rumor.
Warp spiders. Warp spiders in Kill Team would just be unfair, wouldn't it?
I think swooping hawks would be just as miserable. It's like, oh look, we're there, and now we're not there. Oh cool, there we go. But we'll see. The other teams I'm hearing rumors of though is orcs and rattlings and ogrins. So
rattlings and ogrins.
Oh, that's exciting.
Pretty spicy.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited because that's just.
So what would orcs be getting, John?
So I've been thinking this through. So the rumor was armored orcs, and the one that comes to mind to me, everyone goes, "Oh, it's gonna be Storm Boys because it's all flying." I don't think it is. I think it's just knobs, because the knob kit is quite old and it's got very much specific loadouts for each of the guys. And there's rumors about them being led by characters. So I'm thinking maybe a mech. If I was to guess, that's what I would go with, like looking at the range. But we'll see.
Yeah, fantastic. Very interesting. All right, and as far as other news goes, there's also the Middle-earth re-release coming soon as well, which has got some of our Plusers excited. We've got a lot of old Middle-earth heads in our team. It was certainly, it was certainly how I started actually playing any kind of tabletop game, was a W.H. Smith magazine with some high elves in. So I think a few of us are definitely going to have a little dabble into that, and I've got to dig out all my old orcs and elves that are stashed away somewhere and see what state those are in. So I think you can expect some content from us down the line from that. That's something Chris is very excited about. So he's got started drawing the plans in motion for that. Right, okay, we'll do a few plugs, and then we're going to launch into our topic of the week, which is secret missions. So we have Iniquity in, lovely to have you here. Zito is in as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for turning up on this warm summer's night. I hope you are comfortable wherever you are. So, yeah, massively appreciate the support. Please do hit like and subscribe. Please do leave comments if you haven't already. A reminder, as ever, if you're interested in getting involved in TTS leagues in the future or getting some mentoring or coaching from myself and the guys, we've got a bunch of mentees now and we're really happy with how it's progressing. You can sign up as a YouTube member, get in touch, and we'll sort you out with a coach and a mentor as well. So come join the community, get involved. We massively, massively appreciate the support. Summer's obviously been a bit hectic after WTC, but we're just about to rewind the machine and get ready to go again as it starts to head into autumn as well. Okay, fantastic stuff. So next up, secret missions. Got some slides that I sent to John. Here they are. Oh,
all right, guys.
There they go. And we're back again. Paul Bridge says, evening from Denmark, gents. Paul Bridge, thank you so much for coming on the journey from WTC. It's awesome to have you here. Really, really cool to have you in the chat. Truly the best Paul Bridge that there is in all the lands. Lovely to have you here. So tonight we're thinking about making the most of secret missions. Obviously, secret missions, I think when they were announced, they were an interesting change and adaptation and movement on from Gambits. I think it's fair to say they have had vastly more of an impact in the game than Gambits have had. It wasn't clear at the start if they would, but actually they've had a very, very noticeable effect. And actually, having come out of WTC, they've had a massive effect in teams, especially. So I think it's something that's really useful for people to understand, both from a singles and a team's perspective. And I've got there a little Immortal, because Immortals are very, very, very good at secret missions. They're having a real good time right now. So we'll go through it. We've got some ideas, just some general ideas. I'm going to take you through how they work and what the general rules are first. The boys will add some flavour as we go, and we'll get into the ins and outs of how you can make the most of them and also how you can stop them too. If you have questions in the chat, do pipe up as you go as well. We're happy to help. So slide 1, John, let's go. So what are they? Successor to Gambits. They can be taken if you are either losing on or equal on primary at the end of turn 3, battle round 3. So you can make a decision at that point. If your scores on primary are the same, or if you have less primary than your opponent, you can opt to take a secret mission. At that point, you are choosing between one of 4 options. You're not telling your opponent which one you're picking. If you succeed at the end of the game in doing it, you are scoring 20 primary. And you can continue to score up to 20 primary as well. And that's the killer thing here. It's not a complete all-in. You're still in the game on a primary-wise. But you are signing yourself up to potentially get a mother load of additional points at the end. What do you guys think of the overall kind of design and timing and sequencing of the secret mission?
I really like it. It opens up play from a few different angles. Like if you can just rush your opponent in some games, try and table them turn 3, but primary means they can actually come back if they do push you off. So I think it forces a bit more balanced choices.
Yes. Yeah, I think it probably hurts the kind of... There was a style of army that would go and burn out and die and basically be tabled by about 4, but have shut down primary enough that it didn't matter. We saw that a lot in 9. And this, just from a tempo standpoint, means that there is a big way back into the game for armies that have gone behind.
Yeah.
And if the opponent's been burned out, then a really big way back in as well, right?
So a lot of my games during Leviathan season, where I lost by more than about 5 points, were generally where I'd been hit heavily on primary.
Yeah.
So this gives a lot of how I've been playing Space Marines a way back in. And I like it, but I'm kind of still kind of conflicted on it. I haven't made my mind up entirely yet.
Yeah. I think for me, and this is the bit, if they ever decide to rebalance it, I think the additional, being able to continue scoring a lot of primary, a lot of our primary games are very hard fought and close at the moment and not highest scoring anyway. And so on some of the missions especially, you really feel, once you couple an end game swing with an additional 20, it feels like an enormous amount of ground can get made up. I don't think it's necessarily a problem, but I think you can achieve radical swings in score that we just haven't really seen in the game outside of, like turn 3 tabling or whatever. And you can achieve it with a lot less resources. So I think it definitely takes some getting used to. But I as an actual support for underdogs in the game, is so much better than Gambits, right? Like there's a genuine realistic pathway here.
I don't think when we had Gambits, I actually stopped and thought, "Am I going to take a Gambit?" I don't think I ever did.
No,
I
never.
don't even know what any of them said on them anymore.
It was always very much a joke. There was something about rolling 9s or something at one point.
Quarters and roll 9s or be alive. Yeah.
Be in every corner.
These are actual. You go, okay. I've only got 10 primary at the end of 3.
Yeah.
Do I do it, or can I score more than that?
Yeah, completely. So definitely a lot more successful in that sense. And I do think end of turn 3 is often a real game state moment. You often know, what the patterns are like at that stage. So certain strategies and armies, this is a good time to have it. All right, let's move it along. So, why would you do it? I'm going to say my pitch, and the boys are welcome to comment as well. As far as my understanding of it, having seen a lot of games in which people have used them, is that there are armies that, for a variety of reasons, may be struggling for early board presence, controlling the game, primary score in the early game, but can arrive at a point of being quite confident in the end game state, right? They know they can get into certain places. They know they can have a certain amount of presence on the board. They know that the enemy are fighting in a burnout quicker than theirs. Different conditions, depending on how you look at it. But in those instances, being able to literally turn that disadvantage you've accrued on primary into an advantage, because suddenly you're going to get a big swing back at the end, is really, really useful. Certain kinds of armies really, really like them. That is, very mobile ones or teleporting ones with tricks and tools, all very durable ones, but we'll get to the specifics a bit later. It can also just be a Hail Mary. And as I say, I've played a few games now where the other thing it does is actually split your opponent's sort of focus and play up at the end of a game, because they're trying to stop 2 or 3 different things that could be happening, which actually makes it a little harder for them to just dunk you one place at a time and finish putting you away. So it creates a really interesting scrap. I mean, we had it in the game where I played Paul last week, and he'd just dropped Logan Grimnar in and taken a secret mission, and you're like, it could be that Logan Grimnar is trying to get to my back objective on his own, and suddenly I've got to go back and deal with this one Terminator Lord character. So I think it has a sort of confusing effect as well. And in a lot of games where primary is extremely close anyway, or low scoring, you don't lose much by throwing it in there as another agent of chaos, essentially. If you're like, well, I'm scrapping for 20 for the rest of this game anyway, it doesn't really cost you too much to do it. And finally, and this is the one where WTC looms large, we've seen it can massively destroy a differential in a team's round. So we had the game we covered on stream, which was Grey Knights versus Sisters, where Sepian from Team China got 35 points in turn 5, destroyed a differential, like completely and utterly destroyed it. And we saw Hypercrypt doing it a lot, and we'll talk about those armies and why they're good at it a little bit later. But certain armies can just completely no-sell your ability to shut them down in teams, which makes certain builds and playstyles that lean into secret missions really, really effective. What do you guys think? Anything else to that?
Yeah, I think the emphasis on teams is how big an effect it has there. So much more than singles, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because it can turn a big loss into a small one.
Yeah,
it's not that relevant in singles a lot of the time, except into very close games against the very best builds at doing this. But it can definitely salvage a big whack of score, can't it?
Yeah.
And it kind of, if you've got a play style that is more defensive and cagey and wanting to wait and watch your opponent kind of reveal themselves, it's a nice kind of tool to add to your own kind of package, which I don't think you necessarily had before. You had to just be able to hit them hard at a certain point and just make sure that you could catch up. And that was quite tough, on especially getting primary. Like if you're going first, because a lot of the missions favour you going second in some respects, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's certain armies that also want to just keep their assets intact, right? Like Thousand Suns is I put the rubric there. It's like Thousand Suns don't want to give their wizards away and go and be in the middle of the board until later on. And they're always that kind of slow burn of growing into the game, unless you play them like I do, where you just dunk them in front of the opponent and just try and do something and then lose. I think this is a very powerful tool there for certain kinds of armies that do grow into games or don't dominate the mid board early, but like to dominate it later on, for example, or ones that are playing to get around different ones. We've always had this. Sorry, you go, Rob.
I was going to say, I do feel like you've just written this slate of as how you play the game, Tom.
Yeah.
Perfectly suited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of, Yeah, it's definitely an effective one in that sense, and they suit certain kinds of builds and armies, and they do. I think secondaries and primary have always provided that counterbalance, haven't they, a little bit?
Yeah.
But actually, we've seen the secondaries this time have been slightly redesigned. I actually think more brawly central armies can play the new secondaries better than they could before. And this, I think, is a partial compensation for your tricky, teleporty, play in the sides kinds of armies instead. So I think that's really interesting. Hello, Martin Dorr. It is lovely to have you here, sir. Welcome. So let's move it along, John.
Boom.
So how do you do a secret mission? Well, you have 4 options. You pick one. It's achieved at the end of the game. There is a big advantage to doing this going second, I think, because you don't have to deal with that final turn of your opponent, trying to stop you. And I think it's probably fair to say most armies can achieve at least one of these some of the time. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it just takes forward planning. I think
Yeah.
if you are thinking about it at the start of turn 4, if you're going to take one, you're probably not going to do it. You have to start thinking about it in your turn 3, I think.
Yes.
To set yourselves up.
And probably at the list design stage, which we'll talk about as well, right? Exactly. You need the tools in place to do this. Yeah. The only one there's two which I've always felt more sort of win more-ish to me than like smash and grab. 2 of them feel smash and grab. 2 of them feel win more from my standpoint, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I think, going second it helps. You're likely to know. Then the thing with it is, from the game of 9th, 10th to play, the opponent goes first has to try and get a primary lead. They have to, because you're at the end of 10. Yeah. So they're already more likely to put themselves in the position where they're up on primary compared to you, which then means you're open. You can go secret mission. You can be bringing that in later as well. A knight in the chat. Hello, knight. And the knight says, "This must excel against knights," right? I've not actually played it against knights. It's interesting. I think some of them will, and we can think about that as we go. Some of them do work against knights, but what knights and chaos knights armies do have is a ton of battle line, for example, and a ton of primary and objective play. So it can be quite tricky, I think, at times to actually use it effectively against them. But I've not played it yet. I'm still waiting to play that match. All right, let's move it along. So here are the actual secret missions themselves. There are 4. The first one is command insertion. Have your warlord in range of your opponent's deployment zone objective and have it under your control at the end. Who likes this?
Big red guy.
Big red guy. Magnus absolutely loves this because he's so quick. He's OC6. He's massive. He can kill anything when he gets near it. So if Magnus, you watch the game actually where it's on the WTC stream. It was the game that was Sacco versus Nassim. The huge moment in that game was Nassim getting Magnus down to like 6 or 7 wounds, because then it's like he can't go on a journey at the end to bring the points back. And I think Sacco was always thinking, I'll get those points back later. Once he's taken a lot of damage, you're like, no, actually he can't, because he'll never survive to get out there. Any other armies do this one well?
Anything with a vanguardy, uppy, downy kind of thing, you can just
100%.
pick and choose.
Yeah,
I could just think of like a Transcendent Catan, even something like a Space Marine Captain just dropping down in a vanguard list. Just nice, easy little small base stuff can get thrown into a corner.
Necrons are really good at it, so having shoot and scoot Immortals with a Warlord in there, I've seen that done. Grey Knights, shout out from Super Strudel. Hi, Super Strudel, nice to have you in. Yeah, Grey Knights are brilliant at these. It can be Drago or a Libby or whatever else. Sean says Angry Ron. Yeah, Angron is great at these if he comes back.
Yeah,
and we saw Vanilla was pulling that a lot with Angron across the WTC. He was salvaging a lot of scores that weren't supposed to be good for him by using Angron as a late game. World Eater is one of those armies that can have the pieces in place to be trying to do several of these, and you do not know which of them they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And they're very, very effective in that sense. So all credit to Vanilla for figuring that all out. This one, you'll know if you have an army that can do this or not. Let's put it that way. I don't like you, Rob. My Warlord isn't typically alive at this time in a game.
You know what I was going to say? Court of the Archon is actually great at this because it's battle line and it's the Warlord.
Yeah, it is. It's a very good unit for this if you are patient with it.
I've never seen Azrael leave my
I am very patient with my court. Thank you very much.
You are very patient with your court. I like to put mine in danger really, really early.
Azrael tends to be alive for me, but he doesn't tend to go cross the centre line.
Yeah, I don't think a little lad on foot's getting it done, is he?
No. Run him in Vanguard. Sorted.
But then you'd use a combi weapon lieutenant or a jump pack guy. Something small, right?
Yeah. Maybe this is one for a drop pod with Gabriel Seth in. Maybe it's finally time.
You mean that legend?
Oh. Okay, next one, John.
Okay.
So, shatter cohesion. Now, this is the definition of win more. You must either table your opponent or make it so literally every unit they have is 3 away from objectives, below half strength, or battle shocked. So just complete annihilation. Has anyone ever seen this actually done?
No.
I mean, if you're tabling someone, you've probably won on primary.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing. To actually have that level of connection into them and do that much damage, I think you'd need to be, just so far up and forwards and dominant anyway.
I'm trying to think of where this could work. Maybe against like Wolf Jail or something where you haven't left your deployment zone for 3 rounds and then you realise that you've cleared them all and you can push out.
Yeah.
That's about the only kind of example I can think of.
Potentially like a Blood Angels as well, where they've had their swing, they haven't landed it, and they've you've just hoovered up the bodies. But as you said, I think if you were if I was in a strong enough board position that I thought I can table this person, I just wouldn't be thinking about a secret mission. I don't think. Maybe that's something for me to improve. All right, next one. That was one of our sneakier ones. Now we have Unbroken Wall. This is pretty meat and potatoes. Hold 3 or more objectives in no man's land at the end of the game. So it's good for game primary brawling armies. I've got a Death Guard Plague Marine there. Ones that they grow into the game. Once they arrive there, they're not moving, but they often take a turn or two to get there, so they might go down on primary on the way in. Those are very good at this. I think Botan, this is the one they can do most plausibly as well, because they can grind out wins against other armies. But also, a lot of armies can potentially try this, right? A lot of armies that have got on second turn, have a lot of speed and OC and denial can do this. This is a Drukhari one that they could do.
Yeah.
If they're on second, they absolutely do have the resources to stay in the game and nick all the objectives at the end. But it does still feel very win more. Have either of you guys ever tried this one?
My first game of Pariah Nexus, I actually achieved this and I went first.
Yes, amazing. Amazing.
Like you say, you have the resilience, or you just keep your opponent off the objectives because you don't need to be on them anymore. So you set up move blocks.
Yeah, beautiful. So I think this one, I can definitely see this one being used by a lot of armies that like to play over the middle if the circumstances are right. But it is another one that I think, and we'll talk about ways you can deal with this and prevent this, but it is quite win more. I think usually an opponent that has allowed you to get so much of a foothold, you can do this, is already in so much trouble that it's not going to be snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Okie dokie, next thing. War of Attrition. This is the smash and grab one, I think. This is the funny one because you can have 1 or more battle line in the opponent's deployment zone. You need to make it so that any battle line they have left is within their deployment zone or nowhere else, and then you're getting 20. What do you think?
Yeah. So this one I feel is the one that you might be able to spot more often than not. They're trying it with them focusing your battle line. If it's not in your outside your deployment zone, it's that kind of like, why are they going for my battle line over the things that actually kill? So there's these little kind of nods you can spot if you're kind of on the downturn, kind of watching what they're up to. I think it can be quite interesting to see.
The biggest one, guys, if you do want to do this properly, don't start asking your opponent about their battle line in turn 3, unless you're trying to misdirect them, which is maybe there's probably a whole layer of mind games you could play. But find out what their battle line is at the start of the game.
Just sit there with
you won't need to know.
Just look at the list. Yeah.
I could see the potential for feel bads there if someone didn't know something was a battle line unit or got caught out. Like by our Court of the Arton, for example, Rob.
Those Outriders in my deployment zone. You didn't know they were battle line if. There we go.
I like the mind games. This like anything that's a bit questiony is really fun. I know when I started playing, I was playing Dark Angels when you could have secret mission cards, and it was just a fun part of the game. And this is like that. You get these situations where you're like, I don't know what secret mission they've taken. Do I kill their thing that's going to kill me, or do I kill their shitty battle line just in case?
Yeah, that's what the games I've played where it's like, it's the end game, the game is close, and actually several of these are possible. Those are really interesting games because you're like, okay, now I've got to go and chase after this idiot and chase after this idiot and try and clean all this mess up in the middle, and I don't know whether it's even useful. So it creates a lot of chaos. I mean,
chaos
which armies? It should be fun.
We love it.
Yeah, it should be fun.
That's where these secret missions work for me. Is the absolute unknowns and it's great.
And you could get 3 out of 4 and miss the one that they actually have done. Because it's like, well, these seem most likely. And then it's that one fringe case that's just like, maybe not. And then they do it and you're like, fuck. It's great.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got a Grey Knight there. Grey Knights are very good at this. But again, it's a lot. I think a lot of the fundamentals we've already alluded to. If you're quick, it's good. If you're forcing a complete breakthrough somewhere with, lots of transports or something, that's great as well. I think Drakari and CSN with Legios and Rhinos can do well with this as well. And it's just about having good battle line that can get places, basically. And the more Necrons love it. Again, Immortals just having such a good time right now as a unit that can literally be bringing. You can have a package that can score 2 of these, and before you've even started. That's really, really cool. And you've got the mobility in Necrons to jump around, picking off the units you need to kill to do it.
And even if you think you've screened them out of your deployment zone, they can then shoot something and then scoot in if you've got a character with them.
That's where the fire and fade is just so powerful.
Cool, right?
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Well, continue moving it through. That's how the various secret missions work. So thinking about how you maximize them. So the first point I had here was build tech into your lists to play them. If you were going to go and play secret missions tomorrow, Rob, what would you take? What tech do you need?
A warlord that's not something that's going to die immediately if you have a choice.
Absolutely.
Actually think about who your warlord is going to be.
100%. Suddenly relevant again for the first time in 10. Yeah. John, what else would you take?
I'd also take enough guns and combat stuff in my army to then kind of deal with my opponent's ones at the same time. Like not water it down to do it myself and then not be able to play the game. So it's that kind of balance, right? Of getting enough in. Yeah. And not signaling, like if you've suddenly got 6 units of battle line, you're like going, people are looking at it going, they don't normally take that in this army. Why are they doing that? And it's like, well, I'm not going to tell you, but wink, wink. Feels a bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. And I think having enough damage in offense, this is something I talked about in one of the later points, is you do need to be able to carve out space in the board to achieve these. So you need to break through square and get in behind and do enough damage. Otherwise, you're going to struggle.
I think you need to think about what other people are going to be taking. So battle line is an example you were saying, Scrivo. I think it was kind of assumed that everyone would take battle line. It's kind of died off that noise, but I think every list should have at least one battle line unit for this purpose and for OC.
Completely. Yeah, definitely. I do think having seen it played into things like Hypercrit, it's pivotal to have battle line somewhere because it shuts off one of their options. Then you know they're going to go for your back objective, so you've at least got some agency to stop it.
Yeah.
So a lot of battle line, if you have good battle line, is great.
Yeah.
And obviously we've alluded to it a whole bunch, but detachments with mobility tools are king. Really, really good. Demons love this. Hypercrit love this. Grey love this. GS Imagine would love this if they existed. Which they don't currently. That whole index attachment would have been brilliant at these. So I think those kinds of armies are really, really good. Eldar and elves in general that are nimble, definitely good at this too.
Yep.
And the more potential options you have, the more ways you could play this, the harder it is for the opponent to second guess you. I think that's something we've stressed a lot. Don't just have all your eggs in one basket. Think about, can I build the list so there's just 3 or 4 different ways I could approach this? Or learning to play the list in a way that there are 3 or 4 different ways you could approach it as well.
Yeah. And ways that it flexibly can be adapted based on the matchup as well. So if your warlord needs to be in a different unit in a response to going into a different army, great.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next slide. Preventing secret missions. Have you guys prevented any secret missions? And if so, how?
Just kill them enough that
just kill them.
just absolutely flipping kill them. Yeah. This was a conversation Rob and I had at the start of Pariah where we were like, that kind of standing off and just doing enough and keeping them down is much more vulnerable in a world with secret missions in it because they can suddenly swing back late if they've gone second. So we're like, okay, we need to have enough heavy hitting in the list to actually properly put the enemy away.
Yeah, and really changed my list design because my natural playstyle is primary denial and being tabled at the end of the game, and this stops that from happening. You can't build this like that anymore.
Yeah, completely. It's very important to actually pull the limbs off the opposing list and make sure it's no longer functional. And again, you know what you're looking for. You've got to get that warlord dead, get their battle line dead, but also obviously remove their potential to swing back big in the late game and put you away as well. And I've had a couple of other points which you should take your screening and backfield defense seriously. You don't just want to really cheaply let battle line or the warlord get in behind you. So do basic screening. At least make it so they're expending important resources to get in, whether that's a 3-inch deep strike or whatever else. You don't want to just allow them in easily. So do practice actually screening out your own deployment and making it hard for the opponent to get in there. You want to decisively lock down board control. So I think especially for Unbroken Wall, if you've played 40k the way most of us do, which is, we're going to at least try and make sure one side is really genuinely decisively ours. At that stage, most risk of Unbroken Wall goes away, right? If you're like, I've got this half, this is my half, it's safe, it's strong, I'm in a good position here. It's way harder for them to swing back at the end and do that. And as Rob's alluded to already, that can sometimes be about pushing up beyond those places and causing them problems ahead of them so they can't break through to your objectives, blocking and dying and getting in the way. And obviously identifying and killing their key scoring pieces as well is very much a big part of it. Paul Bridge asked, do you actually have to tell your opponent if you've taken one? I think you do.
The wording's a bit weird, but don't be that guy. It's obvious that you should be.
Yeah, I think that's something where you would and you should. I've usually had quite frank discussions with my opponent about it, right?
Yeah. If someone suddenly turned around at turn 5, like, oh yeah, by the way, I took a secret mission and I won by 5 points, I'll be like, get fucked. That'd
be mean. Very, very mean. Yeah. And as I say, definitely do. I do think asking the right questions early on in the game so you're equipped to play a secret mission or prevent it without having to have further conversations about it is useful. Because that keeps the kind of fun secrecy element as well. You don't kind of have this moment. Obviously, you can chat through it and figure out what their options are if you're the one trying to prevent it. But if you're the one trying to execute it, knowing everything you need to know about warlords and battle line and getting in there early is definitely useful, I think.
I think a bit of a weird take on it is every time someone's taken a secret mission against me, or if I've taken one, at the point where you take it, I've actually had to just open chat like, okay, if we have this, you can do this, and this is here, and talk through every card. But I think that might be because it's new edition-y, new rulesy, so everyone wants to make sure that everyone's on the same page. But then it just makes it really fun. You start swearing at each other, and you're like, "What the fuck are you doing? No."
Yeah, it's been very positive. I've found generally as well.
Yeah.
I've not actually seen a game won by one yet, like actually decisively won by one. I've seen games differentials cut really close, but I've not actually witnessed one. I know obviously you actually have won one, Rob, but I've not actually witnessed that done yet. I've seen a few noble attempts. By various different people. And Paul Bridge says, well, it is a secret, right? Yeah, for sure. I can see that case.
Yeah.
I think it feels like something that should be declared, but then which one you picked is obviously completely up to you.
The problem comes up with if they haven't declared it, how do you know they wanted to do it and haven't just waited to see what their better score would be?
Exactly.
I think the theory is they're supposed to select the card, clearly put it somewhere separate, because there's nothing worse than someone having the cards and they're kind of being potentially shuffleable and modelable. That feels murky. So
that's something I think that's missing from the secret mission card is a proceed as planned card like we had in the last pack.
Yeah. And I think that's great fun. That one, just nothing after all, just lol, still the same.
Because technically you still score. Because if you've scored less than 20, you could still be scoring to top yourself up.
Yeah. I know Davey is taking a secret mission and lost because if he didn't take it, he would have had more primary.
Would have got more primary.
So there is a skill to it too.
There is definitely risk there.
Sorry,
one
Davey.
point of prevention that we missed on here was deep strike denial stuff is incredible against armies that want to do it, right? If you have techno-archaeologists, for example, in AdMech, you can have 3 dirt cheap 24-inch auras of no deep strike. You can do this in GSC as well. Infiltrators for
that's why we've started to see them appearing again.
Marines. So I think being able to just say to an army, because increasingly there are armies who are literally designed to do this, right? I played against Hypercrypt a couple of times now, where you can tell they're not really doing anything else. They've kind of decided that's how they're going to play the game. They're going for the end game and secret mission. And so being able to say no is extremely powerful. So definitely keep an eye out for those as well. Very, very useful tech. Deceptors stocks, if you're a CSM player, you can just screen them out with a huge blob of cultists, but no one actually plays Deceptors. But it would work. Alrighty. I don't know if we have anything else for that.
No, it's just that.
Yeah, just a thank you. Just a reminder, guys, we're very grateful. Thanks so much. A little bit more self-promotion for you. Do hit like, subscribe, comment. Do sign up, become a 6+ member if you like. Get involved in our Discord as well. If you want to have more long-winded conversations about the minutiae of this game, get in our Discord. There'll be links in the YouTube video. And you can come and join in, play some TTS and everything else. Or we've got a little gem from Jack Tight to finish it off as well. A good one is if you hit 91 points, anyone who picks a secret mission cannot catch you. You can aim to build your own score to that number if you aren't sure what they've picked. That's interesting. Okay.
Jack, we can't just be GT winning players or
not GT, Super Major.
Super Major winning and score 91 points consistently. Yeah,
but that's really good to know that is the magic number to hit there.
Well, it makes sense, isn't it? Because you're capped at 40 instead of 50, so it makes sense.
Yes.
So unless they're scoring extra for painted, if they're really well painted.
Wonderful. And in case you missed it earlier on, Jack Type, well done on the weekend. We are very proud of you, you little monster. All right. Okay, so I think that's going to take us through to some podcast questions. But before we do that, do you think the overall balance of secret missions is in a good place, boys? Are you happy with where it sits in the game right now?
I do. It's better than Gambits.
Oh, it's way better than it actually exists, so that's a big improvement.
It keeps games interesting because we've all had games where you hit turn 3 and you're just going through the motions, and it keeps both players engaged, I think. So that's positive.
Yeah, 100%. I think, as I said, we certainly had players who were a bit down on it after getting their differentials cut with it at WTC. And I just think it's awesome for that. I think it's a fun wild card to have in the mix. And you just have to stop it happening in order to...
You just got to learn how to play against it.
Yeah, and I've seen players saying, "Oh, there's no way for me to stop it happening." It's like this sounds like something people always say when something new arrives. I can't do anything about it.
There's no way to stop it turn 5. Stop it turn 2 or 3.
Alrighty, so we're going to dive into a handful of podcast questions to finish up on a lovely warm summer eve. If you have any further questions, do chat them in the chat, and we will be more than happy to field them. So let's see what we've got.
I think there's just one tonight.
Oh, lovely, from Adam. So Adam asks, do you guys think it's a valid play style to build lists around scoring a secret mission and work on reducing the opponent's score over the course of the match? What do you reckon?
I don't know if you'll win games that way, but you'll have close games.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it goes back to teams, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's certainly armies where they are very ready to play it in addition to their already overall game of go second, and armies that like to go second, of which is most of the uppy-downy ones, are in a great position to play this game and add it into it. And then they can kind of see how the game's played in the first couple of turns if they've managed to get an in that's been fatal already, or if not, they can build that. But what I would say is I think the vast majority of armies cannot build to reliably take advantage of this all of the time. I think it's quite... Yeah, exactly. And certainly, Adam, I know you on your Votann. I don't think Votann are really a secret mission army as such. Like, I think there's some scope for it. You might get an opening sometimes, but they're pretty honest meat and potatoes, get in the middle, score your points, kind of 40k.
I think it could be a trap for a lot of armies where you go, I'm going to try it as an experiment, and you're diluting what the army can do well anyway. So it's like you're actually worsening your chances of success. Like, I can imagine in Space Marines, if I put in a load of stuff and switched it to a Vanguard list, it suddenly isn't the list I was playing. What am I doing? It needs to be serving a real purpose, not just kind of like, maybe if it's an experiment, just to play into some friends and see, but taking it to a GT, you'll end up getting frustrated, I think.
Yeah. and there's a balance, isn't there? It's like, as we've alluded to, having a good tricksy warlord unit is a good thing anyway, and there's plenty of armies that have access to that. And having some good battle line running about is good and useful to have anyway, and it's just finding ways in the game to keep an eye on whether you can exploit that or not. And those are good tools that you can have anyway, so just have redundancy with it. And so in teams especially, having an army that can do it is massive, though, because you can be playing defender, you can be taking hard matchups, and you can be saying, I'm always going to be in a position to scrap to get points back at the end in this, and completely nullify a big heavy hitting list.
Yeah. If your matrix says 5 and you can get a 7 through a secret mission, you'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you were writing rules to piss off WTC players, secret missions would be one, which is why I think it's great.
Right before as well. Yeah. I love it so much.
It's so good. It's almost like whatever is going on, they know how that works, and are nice trying to mess with it.
It just encourages people to want to play the game how the game should play, rather than just being I brute force a win, because you don't want to sit there for 3 hours after 20 minutes of being like absolutely obliterated in their first turn.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's no fun in that, right? Like it should be to the wire.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a chance to have that kind of story mode back, that big funny moment in the game where something dramatic happens. I think that's a really nice thing that with this that you get. As I say, we had Logan Grimnar making his journey, trying to get involved, and I played Paul, and it's just fun. It's just very, very fun trying to sort of suddenly foil that at the end. Okay, and we've got a follow-up question. If you take a Keeper of Secrets, do you automatically score? I think it's a no. Sorry, Adam. Sorry. No. But you should.
But if you take the Sword of Secrets, you also don't. So
maybe in the future. Yeah. Oh, we've got an anonymous question from Gordy that's just come in. What should I do?
It's not anonymous if you say it like that.
Sorry, Gordy. I read it out. What should I do if my children are much better at the game than me? Should I continue to let them sleep indoors? Yeah, I mean, train him up, Gordy. That's your future. He's going to be 40k is only going up in the world. He's going to be bringing in huge tens of thousands of pounds in prize money before long, right? He's very talented.
Show horses.
Do what you do with any good player, which is copy their ideas and keep them close, keep them around.
Keep them around.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah.
Just gaslight them. Like, do you really want to take that? Oh, I don't think that unit's good enough for this.
So with Gordy and Jake, it's funny because they've both been playing CSM, so they literally have to like divvy out the units when they're going to events and stuff, and like who's getting what, who's getting which.
It's my turn. Choose Warp Talons this week, Dad.
Yeah.
I get the chosen on a 4-up.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, no. Playing for pink slips almost. Brilliant.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. Father-son tabletop gaming combos are very cute.
It's toxic.
As John has always had with his... John has played at the same gaming club as his dad for years. Amazing. All right. Well, this has been a snappy little episode. Snappy little secret mission, which, given how warm it is inside, I don't think is any bad thing at all. So thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. We will be back very soon with our next one. I think probably when Chris is back, we'll look to see how the win rates have shaken out, do our results for Pin the Win Rate, which will free us up to move forwards with that as well. So hopefully that'll be next time. And if not, I'll let you know what it's going to be. And we will see you all again very, very soon. Bye-bye.